What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Outbreak official podcast, where we talk to people who have played the festival, who create culture around it, or are just incredibly interesting for us to have a discussion with. So today is, of course, no exception. But first and foremost, this weekend, we have the autumn edition of the Outbreak Festival on October 27th at the BEC Arena in beautiful Manchester, United Kingdom. This is such a stacked lineup. Stories so far: Citizen, Speed, Angel Dust, Fleshwater, Fucked Up, End It, Pest Control, Narrowhead. It is going to be an evening to remember because, truthfully, all those bands under one roof, you don't get that very often, or ever for that matter. So make sure to secure your ticket ASAP because it's only in a couple days when you're hopefully listening to this as it's coming out. So hop on it. But let's talk about today's guest. We have Karll, the lead vocalist from Detroit hardcore band Gridiron. Truthfully, when I first heard of the band, I wasn't sure it'd be something that I would be into, but after seeing them live a couple of times and then understanding where the band is coming from, I'm in love. They're so much fun, and truthfully, they're heavy as hell, which, of course, that's what you want in your hardcore. But I have a sneaking suspicion over the next year and a half, you will be able to see them in many places as they play more gigs around the world and, might have a trick or two up their sleeve in regards to, record deals and stuff like that. Regardless, you can leave a rating and review on the Apple Podcast page or leave a rating on the Spotify page if that's where you listen to it. We're posting episodes every 2 weeks, so follow along. We've got plenty of more awesome interviews with people over the course of this entire series. I think we had 17 different chats, which is, that's a lot. I'm getting tired just thinking about all of those chats that I had. And we're also publishing these on YouTube, which clearly, if you are watching this, you get it. But make sure you follow along at the Outbreak official page on YouTube. And let's give a huge shout out to our sponsor this year, our main sponsor, Squarespace, who offer an amazingly easy solution if you're launching a website or you need to get a domain, anything you're doing on the digital platforms, as it were. So go to squarespace.com/outbreak, where you can get 10% off of your first domain or website. Trust me, super easy, super simple, drag and drop, all of the things that if you don't know anything about coding or launching websites, they will make it easy for you. So huge shout out to Squarespace for supporting independent music and supporting this particular podcast. So let us talk to Karll from Gridiron right now.
You got the energy. Your time ran out. Your time is total, try to misconstrue. But the facts and the facts can retract the truth. Try to act a fool. And we'll show you the door. Be surprised, we've been here before. Now that you in, you gotta take the fall. Make a call, save face, take the fall. Break you stall. You must something to prove. Fuck you, that's the pain of the too deep to turn back. Every corner that you turn.
Yo, what's up? My name's Matt Karll. I sing for the band Gridiron, based out of Philadelphia and Detroit, Michigan.
Perfect. I was going to say, wait, so you live in Philly?
Yes.
And I know Lennon lives in Philly.
Yes.
The rest of everybody is in Detroit?
No, everyone except one is Detroit.
Okay.
So Tyler, who plays drums, and Xavier, who plays guitar, they live in Wilmington area. So
okay.
They're right out. They're in Delaware, but they're right outside of the city. So.
Okay, got it. Well, we've obviously just met, and I'm going to sort of insult your band, but I think you'll be okay.
Okay. So I can take criticism.
And this is not a criticism. Gridiron is effectively, in my opinion, one of the best ignorant hardcore bands. When I say ignorant, it's what you are putting forth musically, and you're just we're unapologetic about. We obviously love sports. We're taking a page in a 10-yard fight handbook.
Right.
And some people will be turned off of me by that to be look at these long that's whatever.
Right.
I'm sure that you've heard some version of that. I don't want to even call it criticism, but people being either
right.
I mess with Gridiron or I hate them.
Right.
Is it one of those things? Isn't just fun for you to see the way that people react?
Yeah, I mean, this band started, obviously everything we do for ourselves. Like, this band was made for our friends to have fun to. Like, And that's all it is, and that's all I ever want it to be, you know? So obviously, like, the things that we're interested in are going to come out in the music, whether it be sports or food or, you know, whatever it is. You know, so I totally understand people being, you know, off-put or not into it, and that's fine. It's not for everyone, you know, but, you know, ultimately at the end of the day, we do it for ourselves, and if people like it, that's awesome. And if not, that's awesome too. Well, I understand. No, I listen to Gridiron and I go, okay, yeah, there are people that are going to hate this.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's definitely like a little tongue-in-cheek here and there and stuff like that. But, like, it's hardcore. It doesn't always have to be serious. Like, you're allowed to have fun sometimes in hardcore. So that's kind of, you know, the whole aura of this band.
Right. And I think, like, for a person like me and many others, where it's just like, I don't immediately gravitate towards that style,
Right.
but then when I hear it done well, I'm like, oh, I'm messing with this. And I think ultimately the fun having not only on stage, but the way you present the band breaks down any of those barriers that people are like, oh, they're not being like utterly serious.
Right.
They're being, like you said, tongue firmly implanted and cheap.
Right.
It's like, you guys can ride with this because you want to have fun.
We've said, like, we always joke to each other that, like, we are the most serious, unserious band, you know, and I think that's, you know, people seem to like it. You know, it seems to be a good formula, and, you know, it's what we like to do. So,
Right. Well, it's like being from Southern California, watching a band like Throwdown.
right.
They started literally as a joke.
Right.
Like, very much with their friends.
Right.
And, like, exactly the same scenario of what you're talking about, where it's like, we like to play this style of music, and it happens to be that, like, it's the, you know, more basic version of what capital H hardcore is.
Right.
But if people are having fun and it's bringing more people in, who's losing?
Right. Exactly. You know, yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, you know? We're having fun with the band, and that's all. You know, we were never supposed to record songs. We were never supposed to play a show. We were never supposed to put out any records or anything like that. So everything is kind of just feels like house money at this point, you know? So just keep having fun with it.
Absolutely. You know, just like, why would we not make a football? Obviously.
Right. Yeah.
You're like, every ridiculous thing that most bands would be like, oh, we can't do that. You guys have given permission to yourselves.
Right.
To do that.
Right. And then I think that's important. Like, you know, we didn't like paint ourselves in a corner or anything like that. Like, it's at the point where we could probably do pretty much anything. And then people, you know, kind of be like, oh, that checks out. It's Gridiron. You know, it makes sense for them to do it.
Totally.
You know, and that's, you know, I love a good gimmick. I love having fun, and, you know, I love making music with my friends. So that's what this band exists for. So,
yeah. I always find it fascinating, like, people have these inflection points, like, not too similar to what we were talking about off camera with Allen Iverson on your shirt, where it's like, he influenced you in great ways.
Right.
When you started to get into, like, punk and hardcore, like, people either have those shows or those records that where it's like, yo, if I didn't listen to this or I didn't go to this show, my life would have been drastically different.
Yeah.
When I put that question on you, like, what springs to your mind?
So I was originally into hip hop. I had two older brothers who would always let me, like, borrow, like, the Wu-Tang Forever CD or stuff like that. So I fell in love with hip hop. And once I started discovering that there were, like, hardcore bands, there was, like, heavy music that was influenced by hip hop, it kind of just took, like, everything I loved and, like, morphed it into one thing. And I mean, that's kind of what, like, the goal is with Gridiron, you know? I mean, we're definitely very heavily, like, hip hop influenced and, you know, hard music, you know? So, like, bands like, I mean, obviously Biohazard is, like, the band for me. E-Town Concrete, the band for me. Bands like that, you know, kind of have, like, that hip hop feel to hard music. And, you know, it's bands like that really drew me into hardcore.
Right. The Judgment Night soundtrack is very
incredible.
I just love it, where it's like, that movie is forgotten from a pop culture perspective.
Yeah.
Some people point to it occasionally, but everybody in the punk and hardcore scene has not only heard it, but they own the soundtrack.
Right. Yes. 100%.
They're just like, this was the first good execution of hip hop and heavy music, to where it wasn't, like, so cringeworthy where you're like,
yep.
Oh, Spawn soundtrack, like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, there's some tracks. There's some tracks.
There are.
Triple X soundtrack also has some tracks on it.
That is often looked over.
Yep.
But yes, you're right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let us take a break in the action to talk about our main friends this season, Squarespace. They are the all-in-one design platform for you to make a website, to secure your domain name, to sell stuff. Let me tell you how easy it is. But first, go to squarespace.com/outbreak, and it gives you 10% off of your entire order of websites, domains. But you're in a band probably, or maybe you're selling stuff online. They have something called Squarespace Payments, where it makes it so easy for you to open up your own store and sell stuff and accept payments from all over the world. I mean, if you are a band, there is no better solution than to dipping into Squarespace. Or if you're being like, you know what? I want to change my website. It's so easy. You can do that. You want to post tour dates. You want to be able to have something that dynamically updates. All of these things, and it's mobile friendly. So that way people who are consuming your website, which obviously are a lot of people, need to be able to access it on their phones where they're looking at, maybe you got a lyrics section. Like there's so many great ideas that you can incorporate in your Squarespace website. So again, for 10% off of your first website or domain, go to squarespace.com/outbreak. You can just read it right there. Obviously, it's going squarespace.com/outbreak, but no joke, we love Squarespace. And if you're thinking about launching a website, there's no better partner. Squarespace.com/outbreak for 10% off.
So this is kind of a random question, but one that I think is telling of what a person's interests are. So like if I were to give you infinite money as of tomorrow and you were to open your own like retail store, what would you sell it in? What would the vibe be? Where does your mind immediately go?
I mean, I love, I'm like really big into fashion. So, I mean, I love like vintage stuff. So, there would definitely be some of that in there. And then, I love like tech designer stuff like Stone Island and stuff like that. So the store would definitely be centered around clothing.
Okay.
But then in the back, there would be like a griddle where we'd make like smash burgers. So, we kind of, that's the both worlds there, yeah. So that's probably what my store. I mean, I might just have to do that. Yeah, it kind of sounds cool.
It's like a burger cafe in the back where you're like, yo, you can go get your smash burger and then go shop around
and walk out and
right,
pick up a pair of sneakers on your way out.
Totally.
Yeah.
But like if you're browsing their clothes, wear gloves.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We'll put some hand washing stations in. Yeah.
I love that. I'm also fascinated by people's, like, especially in look and hardcore, and most independent music in general, like, when you're playing in bands, like, you're not making money.
Right.
And it takes many years to get to that point where it's like, oh, it's my living. I'm a musician or whatever. What are some of the side hustles, jobs, or whatever that you've enjoyed as you have been? I mean, because I know ostensibly Gridiron is obviously still in that position.
Right.
It's like, oh, yeah, we make it little, but we're not doing this.
Right.
So when I put you on the spot with that, like what stuff rings to your mind and you've enjoyed being like, oh man, here's my side hustle. Let me do
back to clothing again. Like, buying and selling, vintage stuff,
okay.
Real into like vintage sports stuff, like whether they're like, jerseys, t-shirts, vintage NASCAR stuff. I love vintage wrestling stuff, so that would probably be, one of my main side hustles that I've done.
Are you selling it on Instagram or have you installed?
I don't do it anymore.
Okay, but that's what you really enjoy.
Yeah. That's kind of like now it's definitely way harder to like buy and sell vintage. Yeah. So I'm at the point now where it's like, if I really want something, I'm just going to pay for it.
It's for you, right?
I'm not going to spend hours at a thrift store anymore. So if I see something online and I'll just buy it if I want it, no more,
right.
But there is something about like, going into a place like that and just finding something crazy and it's like 99 cents.
Right.
Something, your size that you really like, so.
Totally. It is the thrill of that particular find. In the same way that like people find that thrill with records or whatever.
Right.
But to your point, there's much less like I legitimately go into vintage stores or look online just to like laugh at the old irrelevant hardcore bands. I'm going to say irrelevant, I'm using air quotes, but just like, what do you mean you're going to spend $200 for Red Roses from a Blue Lady?
Right.
Like, what?
Right. And $200 is probably cheap for that. Like, I mean, like that's another thing, like the vintage hardcore shirt game it's not quite as crazy now as it was like during the pandemic and like right after. But I mean, dude, I sold a Marauder shirt for over $1,500. It's like, yeah, it's great. I mean,
It was probably
It's
Europe.
nuts.
It was probably a person in Europe, right?
I don't know. It was a Europe tour, long.
Oh, then yeah.
But
long sleeve. Oh,
but-
yeah.
but I mean, that's how crazy it was, back. And now it's like a little more reasonable, but it's still like, you're still paying top dollar for like Set It Off era mat ball stuff and stuff like that, so.
Right. Where it's like, it's almost to your point, it's more about the aesthetic. Like some people, and I know everybody likes to make fun of, the Kardashians on the internet for
Right.
like Slater shirts or
Right.
whatever. But it's like, you understand where it's like, well, yeah, it's a cool design.
Right. She's not wearing that shirt because she fucks with Cannibal Corpse.
No.
She will, you know what? I will go as far to say if she listened to Cannibal Corpse, she would go, I don't like this.
Yeah.
But the shirt, it's a cool design. It's vintage. And like, that's what, people look for, regardless of what it is. Like if you look at Travis Scott's, page on Spotify, like when you type in Travis Scott and click on it and it pops up like his artist profile, he's wearing a Sick of It All shirt.
I did
Yeah,
not know.
Sick of It All cutoff shirt. So like, yeah,
You're like, that was given to him by a stylist.
Right,
Or like,
exactly.
He just like, look.
right. Oh, that
like-
dragon's cool. Yeah,
He's like,
I mean,
of course I'm sick
right,
of it. Oh,
right, exactly.
no, wait, that's a band too?
Yeah.
So with the fact that Gridiron is at this interesting juncture where it's like, you were doing way more than you ever anticipated. And you've had to encounter, business conversations, I know. How have you balanced, you mentioned earlier, how serious you take something versus being like, I don't know, I guess, maybe take this seriously? Like, what's that balance been for you?
So it's been like are kind of at that fork in the road now. And, it's getting to the point where like it feels more real than it ever has, like to possibly give it a shot. And it's one of those things like, I don't want to be like old and like sitting back and being like, what if we tried it? I want to find out one way or another, so it's one of those things that we have kind of been like talking about, maybe trying to just like do like a full US or something like that. This is the longest tour we've ever done
right.
by 5 days. So yeah, the longest tour we ever did was 5 days before this, and this is 10. So, yeah, it's like tough conversations and it's scary, cause, we have like mortgages now, we're engaged now.
Yeah.
Like this isn't, it's easy when, you're 20 years old and it's just like, oh yeah, why not? Fuck it, let's go.
Yep.
It's not, you can't just be like, let's go because the bank needs their money for your house
And there's other people depending on
Right.
you. You're not making these decisions.
Exactly. Exactly. So like the thought of it is scary. But like I'm big on just, not being complacent and taking chances. And usually that's when the best shit happens. So,
Yeah.
you're
rolling the dice.
yeah,
Why not?
exactly. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. Considering, had you ever toured before in anything else?
No.
So
I've done like weekends and stuff with like this band from Philly, Agitator.
Oh yeah.
I used to, they're all my homies from like I graduated high school with them and stuff. So I used to like go on weekends with them and stuff like that. But it was never nothing like extensive at all.
So how, considering you're in the middle of something right now, and I don't want to ask a hacking question, but it's just like, is tour what you expected it to be?
Not sure yet because
Yeah.
this tour is unlike any other tour that we probably would be on. Like, flying across the country, being in a double-decker bus and, 10 shows in 10 days and it's like 5 different countries, so I don't want to leave this being like, oh, that's what tour's like. Because like, I've been around hardcore long enough to know that like, this is not what it's like. You know what I mean? 99% of the time. So, I'm looking at this. This is vacation.
Yeah.
Hanging out. Every band on this package is, some of my best friends. My best friend, AC, he was an Agitator. He just got here today to Manchester. So he's hanging out with us for the whole week. So like,
Yeah. I just have to
riding off vibes right now. So
Totally. I just have to yell into a microphone once a day. Everything else is just
hanging out.
Yeah, just hanging out.
And normally I stress about like dumb stuff like, logistics stuff or, if, the card reader's not working or something like that. I'm not letting none of that, just hanging out with my friends and I'm gonna wake up in Paris tomorrow,
Right.
so it could be worse.
You're across.
Bring it on, card reader. Like, you're not gonna. You normally do get the best of me, but not this
Yes,
time.
you're not going to bum me out. I am going to. Well, I guess that's an interesting segue into the last question, where it's just like, because Gridiron is, or Drade, I mean, obviously what you guys are leaning into is very much like, it's macho in nature.
Right.
Like, not saying it's like who we were as
Right.
but like, kind of removing some of that edifice of the idea where it's just like, what was the last thing that like got you emotional? Where it was just like, oh my gosh, which I know, that's a big question. But
I mean, I knew the answer instantly. It was the Sixers losing to the Knicks in the playoffs. That stung for a few days. So
right, like, were you, when Jalen Brunson put that nail in your coffin, were you like immediately tears? Was it like tears in the game?
I didn't cry. The last time I cried during sports is when the Eagles won the Super Bowl.
Okay,
So that brought actual tears.
right,
But the Sixers, all the tears have been dried for the Sixers. They just piss me off and annoy me at this point. Like,
right,
and it's funny because every year I'm like, oh, it's the same old shit. I'm not gonna let them piss me off, and then I'm just like, a week later, it's just
Right.
so.
right,
But yeah, normally sports is what, and I guess it's probably not the greatest thing that sports are probably the thing that like dictate how I feel the more than anything on a daily basis. So I've gotten a lot better with age, but when I was younger, if the Eagles would lose on Sunday, just like a regular season game, it would take me until like Thursday to like want to like socialize or anything like that. So I'm not like that anymore, which is good. But yeah, I mean, it can be pretty frustrating at times, like just caring so much about stuff like that and, being let down year after year.
and then obviously it is very on brand for where it's just like, listen, I take sports seriously and I take sports hardcore seriously.
Right.
So like, of
Right.
course, why would I not
Right.
let that
Exactly.
affect me? Like now you're just obviously more responsible about the way that you are interacting with sports emotions.
Right. It took a while, but I'm getting there.
That's good. Well,
Yeah.
I hope it swings the other way in some near future.
Yeah, just give me one more.
Just one more.
I got an Eagles, I got a Super Bowl, I got a World Series. Phillies are awesome right now, but I need an NBA championship.
basketball.
Yeah,
I
I need
understand.
the Sixers to win one.
Well, you just gotta trust the process, okay?
I've been trusting for 7 years now, so process ain't looking too great.
No.
So
Well, I genuinely appreciate you hanging out with me.
I appreciate you having me on.
Of
Thank you,
course,
man.
dude.
Appreciate
Of
it.
course.
Awesome.